Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This evening's reciters are Himangi Mataji, reciting in Sanskrit, and Sailash Prabhu in English. And the verses for recitation are from Canto 3, Chapter 20, verses 36 to 53. So Himangi Mataji, when you're ready, please start with the invocation. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji, are you ready to recite the Sanskrit verses, please? Okay, I'm looking at the participants. I don't think Himangi Mataji has joined us. So while waiting for Mataji to join, Sanchita Mataji, would you like to read the Sanskrit verses in the meantime?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Jaivad Mataji had allocated me from shloka 15 to 28 for this evening. For the Sanskrit recitation.
Okay, let me just have a look and see. Yes, Sanchita Mataji, I beg your pardon. You are reading the Sanskrit and Sunita Mataji is doing the English. I was looking at the wrong date. So when you're ready, please start with the invocation. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Mataji, which text, which verses? I'm a bit lost.
Okay, it's Canto 3.
Yeah.
Chapter 21.
Yeah.
Verses 1 to 14.
Okay.
Mataji, sorry, I was assigned 15 to 28, so I did not prepare these ones.
Oh, okay. So, okay, you can read 15 to 28.
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, this. Thank you. Shall I start?
Yes, please, with the invocation. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 15. तथा स चाहं परिवोढुकामः समानशीलं गृहमेधधेनुम् उपेयिवानमूलम् अशेषमूलम् दुराशयः कामदुघाङ्घ्रिपस्य
Hare Krishna. Is Sunita Mataji ready to read? Otherwise, we can ask for a volunteer. Any volunteers to read the English, please?
I can't see Sunita Mataji.
No, she's not there.
Shall I?
Yes, please, if you don't mind. Yes,
If
please.
she joins?
When she joins, we will then ask her to read. So in the meantime, Jyoti Mataji, please do the honors. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything, for you are like a desire tree.
प्रजापतेस्ते वचसाधीशतन्त्या लोकः कीलायं कामहतोऽनुबद्धः अहं च लोकानुगतो वहामि वलिं च शुक्लानिमिषाय तुभ्यम्.
O my Lord, you are the master and leader of all living entities. Under your direction, all conditioned souls as if bound by rope, are constantly engaged in satisfying their desires. Following them, O embodiment of religion, I also bear oblations for you, who are eternal time.
Text 17. लोकांश्च लोकानुगतान् पशुंश्च हित्वा श्रितास्ते चरणातपत्रं परस्परं त्वदगुणवादसीधु पीयूषा निरापितदेहधर्माः.
However, persons who have given up stereotyped worldly affairs and the beastly followers of these affairs, and who have taken shelter of the umbrella of your lotus feet by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussions with one another, can be freed from the primary necessities of the material body.
Text 18. नातजराक्षभ्रमिरायुरेषां त्रयोदशारं त्रिशन्तषष्टिपर्व शनेम्यनन्तच्छदी यत्रिनाभि करलाशोतो जगताच्छिद्यधावत्.
Your will, which has three naves, rotates around the axis of the imperishable Brahman. It has 13 spokes, 360 joints, 6 rims, and numberless leaves carved upon it. Though its revolution cuts short the lifespan of the entire creation, this wheel of tremendous velocity cannot touch the lifespan of the devotees of the Lord.
Text 19. एकः स्वयं सङ्गतः शिक्षया द्वितीययात्मनधियोगमायया सृजस्य दः पासि पुनर्ग्रसिष्यसे भगवन् स्वशक्तिभिः.
My dear Lord, you alone create the universes, O personality of Godhead. Desiring to create these universes, you create them, maintain them, and again wind them up by your own energies, which are under the control of your second energy, called Yogamaya. Just as a spider creates a cobweb by its own energy and again up.
Text 20. नैताद्बताधीसपादं तवेप्सितं यन्मायायनस्तनूसे भूतसूक्ष्मम् अनुग्रहायास्व अपि यर्हि मायया लसत्तुलस्य भगवान् विलक्षितः.
My dear Lord, although it is not your desire, you manifest this creation of gross and subtle elements just for our sensual satisfaction. Let your causeless mercy be upon us, for you have appeared before us in your eternal form, adorned with the splendid wreath of tulsi leaves.
Text 21. तं त्वनुभूत्योपरत्क्रियार्थं स्वमायया वर्तितलोकतन्त्रं नमामि अभीक्षणं नमानीयपाद सरोजम् अल्पीयासि कामवर्षम्.
I continuously offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet, of which is worthy to take shelter, because you shower all benedictions on the insignificant, to give all living entities detachment from fruitive activity by realizing you. You have expanded these material worlds by your own energy.
Text 22. ऋषिर उवाच व्यलीकं प्रणतो जनाभ स्तमा बभासे बच्चसामृतेन सुपर्णपक्षोपरि रोचमानः प्रेम स्मितोद्वीक्षण भ्रममादभ्रुः.
Maitreya resumed, sincerely extolled in these words, Lord Vishnu, shining very beautifully on the shoulders of Garuda, replied with words as sweet as nectar. His eyebrows moved gracefully as he looked at the sage with a smile full of affection.
Text 23. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Viditva Tava Chaitvam Me Puraiva Samayojitat Yadarthatmanyamaiस्त्वयैवाह Samarchitah.
The Supreme Lord said, having come to know what was in your mind, I have already arranged for that for which you have worshipped me well through your mental and sensory discipline.
Text 24. Navai jatu mrishaiva syat prajadhyakshamad arhanam bhavat vidisva atitaram mai sangrabhitatmanam manam.
The Lord continued, my dear Rishi, O leader of the living entities, for those who serve me in devotion by worshipping me, especially persons like you who have given up everything unto me, there is never any question of frustration.
Text 25. Prajapati sutah samran manurvikhyata mangalaha ब्रह्मावर्तं योधिवसन् शास्ति सप्तार्णवामहिम्.
The Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, the son of Lord Brahma, who is well known for his righteous acts, has his seat in Brahmavarta and rules over the earth with its 7 oceans.
Text 26. Sacheha viprarajarshe mahishyasat आयास्यति दिदृक्षुस्तत्त्वां परशो धर्मकोविदः.
The day after tomorrow, O Brahmana, the celebrated emperor, who is expert in religious activities, will come here with his queen, Satarupa, wishing to see you.
Text 27. Atmajam asati asitapangim vyayah shila gunanvitam mrigayantim patim dasyatyanurupaya hite prabho.
He has a grown-up daughter whose eyes are black. She is ready for marriage and she has good character and all good qualities. She is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you, who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver their daughter as your wife.
Text 28. Samahitam te hridayam yatra mano parivatsaran satvam brahman ripavaduhu kamamashu bhajishyati.
That princess or holy sage will be just the type you have been thinking of in your heart for all these long years. She will soon be yours and will serve you to your heart's content. Thank you for the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the opportunity and please forgive me for my mistakes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much for your wonderful recitation. And sorry, I joined a bit late, just like, trying to move from the daily Kartik Sangha here. So, hope you're all keeping well. So, let's begin with invocation and then the Mangala Charan, and then we get started today. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यामनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते तप्त कञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नम ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्यता दिशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधारा श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे राम 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 हरे Hare Krishna everyone again and happy Govardhan Puja and also happy Gujarati New Year. And for those of you who are celebrating Gujarati New Year, and it's also in the month of Kartik, so there is so much of auspiciousness, so much of spiritual potency across, and it's quite appropriate that the verses that we are going to discuss today speaks a little bit about. It allows us to do some Kartik reflections as well, and we will see how that are the purpose of Prabhupada in all of these three are very very important. So it's quite appropriate that we discuss this in on this auspicious day. So let's really see where we are today with respect to. So we are on chapter 21, and we'll be doing verses 13 to 15. But let's see what's happening in this particular chapter before, and then we will move to the verses. So this is a conversation between Manu and Kardama, and it's really a question that Vidur asks, Sage Maitreya right at the start. So he asks, Vidura said, the line of Swambhuva Manu was most esteemed. O worshipful sage, I beg you, give me an account of this race whose progeny multiplied through sexual intercourse. So this is how this particular chapter begins, and then the great sage Maitreya he says that commanded by Lord Brahma to beget children in the worlds, the worshipful Kardama Muni practiced penance on the bank of the river Saraswati for a period of 10,000 years. So this is the Satyuga. So this is the time when penance, when there was a lot more of goodness in the world, and when you do penance, you do penance as a way to pay obeisances and please the Lord, and and we also see how the Lord allows Kardama Muni to see his form. And it's such a beautiful, like passage that I think we can also think of his form. So maybe I'll invite you to close your eyes as we go through the next few verses. The lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to that Kardama Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood only through the Vedas. Kardama Muni saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is free from material contamination, in his eternal form, effulgent like the sun, wearing a garland of white lotuses and water lilies. The Lord was clad in spotless yellow silk, and his lotus face was fringed with slick dark locks of curly hair. Adorned with a crown and earrings, he held his characteristic conch, disc, and mace in three of his hands, and a white lily in the fourth. He glanced about in a happy, smiling mood, whose sight captivates the hearts of all devotees. A golden streak on his chest, the famous Kaustubha gem suspended from his neck. He stood in the air with his lotus feet placed on the shoulders of Garuda. This is the form that Kardama Muni saw. And in the text just before this, when Kardama Muni actually realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead in person, he was greatly satisfied because his transcendental desire was fulfilled. He fell to the ground with his head bowed to offer obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord. His heart naturally full of love of God, with folded hands, he satisfied the Lord with prayers. So that's where we begin from. So we're going to look at text 13, 14, and 15. So what we will do is we will first read the verses and the translation, and then we will have a short discussion. So allow me to share my screen. Oh gosh, what's happened? I thought I had kept it open. Just bear with me for a second. I may have accidentally closed it. So I will read the Sanskrit, Sanskrit, and I'll invite one of you to read the translation. ऋषिरुवाच जस्तं पदात्यखिला सत्वरसे सांसित्यम् अक्स्नो तव दर्शनं नः यद्दर्शनं जन्मभिरित्यसद्भिर् आसासते योगिनो हृदा योगः. Would somebody like to read the translation?
Can I read, Prabhuji, please?
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you. The great sage Kardama said, O Supreme Worshipable Lord, my power of sight is now fulfilled, having attained the greatest perfection of the sight of you, who are the reservoir of all existences. Through many successive births of deep meditation, advanced yogis aspire to see your transcendental form. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. We will come to the purport. We will move to the next verse, and that's text 14. Ye Maya te hatamedasastvat padarvindam bhavasindupotam upasate kamalavayate sam sa rasisa kama niraye piyesyuhu. Who would like to read this?
Can I read, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Sakshi Mataji.
Your lotus feet are the true vessel to take one across the ocean of mundane nescience. Only persons deprived of their intelligence by the spell of the deluding energy will worship those feet with a view to attain the trivial and momentary pleasures of the senses, which even persons rotting in hell can attain. However, could you scroll up, please, Prabhuji?
Oh, yes, okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
However, O my Lord, you are so kind that you bestow mercy even upon them. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. And text 15. Tata sachaham parivodukamaha samanaseelam grahamedadenam upeyivan moolam asesamulam durasaya kamadukan kripasya. Who would like to read this?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Shabda Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything. For you are like a desire tree. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So we'll move on to text 13. So where we start off, as I mentioned, is Kardama Muni is seeing the form of the Lord, and he is completely enchanted by by his sight. By the sight of the Lord, and the first thing that he does, as all devotees do, is to bow in full obeisance. And what he is doing is, why is he doing penance? He's doing penance because he's been instructed by Lord Brahma to create living entities, and so he is. That's why he approaches the Lord, and the Lord blesses him, and with his form, and we see that he's also smiling, as he always does. And so what the great sage Kardama Muni says is that my power of sight is now fulfilled, because as a devotee, we don't really need anything else, because our material senses does get diluted by what we see around the world. But the moment a devotee sees the Lord himself, as Kardama Muni has, so he doesn't desire to see anything else, because there is no other sight that is going to be more beautiful than what he's just seen. Having attained the greatest perfection of the sight of you, who are the reservoir of all existences. And through many successive births of deep meditation, advanced yogis aspire to see a transcendental form. And despite many successive births, many advanced yogis, they do not really, if the Lord does not give the mercy to them, then they would be unable to see his transcendental form. And let's read the purport as by Prabhupada, because there are some very important messages here for us. So I would like to invite maybe three devotees, each one to read maybe purport 1 and then purport 2 and purport 3, and then we can have a discussion on each of those. So is there anyone who would like to, Shiji Kishori Mataji, would you like to read the first one?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described here as the reservoir of all goodness and all pleasure. Unless one is situated in the mode of goodness, there is no real pleasure. Therefore, when one's body, mind, and activities are situated in the service of the Lord, one is on the highest perfectional stage of goodness. Kardama Muni says, Your Lordship is the reservoir of all that can be understood by the nomenclature of goodness, and by our experiencing you face to face, the perfection of sight has now been attained. These statements are the pure devotional situation. For a devotee, the perfection of the senses is to engage in the service of the Lord. The sense of sight, when engaged in seeing the beauty of the Lord, is perfected. The power to hear, when engaged in hearing the glories of the Lord, is perfected. The power to taste, when one enjoys by eating prasad, is perfected. When all the senses engage in relationship with the personality of Godhead, one's perfection is technically called Bhakti Yoga, which entails detaching the senses from material indulgence and attaching them to the service of the Lord. When one is freed from all designated conditional life and fully engages in the service of the Lord, one's service is called Bhakti Yoga. Kardama Muni admits that seeing the Lord personally in Bhakti Yoga is the perfection of sight. The exalted perfection of seeing the Lord is not exaggerated by Kardama Muni. He gives evidence that those who are actually elevated in yoga aspire in life after life to see this form of the personality of Godhead. He was not a fictitious yogi. Those who are actually on the advanced path aspire only to see the eternal form of the Lord. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is
Jai.
such a beautiful purport, isn't it? I mean, you can just keep like reading this for a long time. Kidar Dulai Mataji, I think what we'll do is we'll pause here, but I'll invite you to do the the next purport. But here we let's pause here and look at some of the key messages that Prabhupada says. And of course, if there's something that like resonated with you, you could say as well. So one of the things that really struck me was this part actually. Of course, there are many parts that one can, but here Prabhupada speaks about Bhakti Yoga. And what he says about Bhakti Yoga is what it means is really about detaching the senses from material indulgence and attaching them to the service of the Lord. So our material senses do have a propensity to seek happiness, to seek pleasure. And if we are not very careful, our senses can be deluded into a sense enjoyment, and that sense enjoyment for material pleasures, can take you in a direction that will take you away from the service of the Lord. Uh, and there are some yogis who believe that we can stop our senses from truly like experience from truly seeking happiness, but that's not really natural, because just like as a mind is is very very chanchal, as we say, like it's very nimble, it's constantly like distracted. Similarly, the nature of this material senses that we have is that it's constantly seeking for pleasure, seeking for enjoyment, and we would like to see something beautiful. How many of us would love to see a beautiful rose? And when you see a beautiful rose, and when you smell it, you feel happy. Or when you see like maybe a beautiful sunset, it again gives you a lot of joy, because it's really a sight that gives you a lot of pleasure. Or it could be like maybe the river and the mountains. So there are many things in this material world that really gives you a lot of joy. And we have this, as a soul, we have this intrinsic propensity to seek pleasure. Now, the question is whether we seek pleasure in a material sense, or whether we seek pleasure in a spiritual sense. And here's where Prabhupada says is that you can achieve perfection only through Bhakti Yoga. And what that really means is that you detach your senses from material indulgence. So shift the propensity of your senses to enjoy material things, to attach them to the service of the Lord. So this is quite a beautiful way of doing that, and it's such it's quite important even in the month of Kartik, because in the month of Kartik, that's what we are really trying to do. So one of the things that we're really trying to do is to come use the spiritual potency of this month to come closer to Krishna and worship Lord Damodar. In fact, just before this in the Kartik Sangha, we happen to like go online to and to a devotee's home, and it was Jai Mataji, and then we also discovered that her 90-year-old mother-in-law is there, and today also happens to be her birthday as well. So it was quite an auspicious way. And when we were chanting the Damodar Ashtakam, and you could feel the spiritual potency really like really very high. And what we really were doing was that using those few moments to detach ourselves from whatever pleasure we get at a material level, and really attaching them to the service of the Lord, because everyone was so engrossed in seeing the altar, everyone was so engrossed in the offering of the ghee lamp to Lord Damodar. So that is really, and what Prabhupada also says is that he also gives some examples. So, for example, when you have a sense of sight, when you engage in seeing the beauty of the Lord, when you use your ears to hear the glories of the Lord, and not necessarily look at, like listen to some, like music that can really, take you away. So you really have a choice of what you want to listen to. You also have a choice of what you want to see, and you also have a choice of what you want to taste. So, would you like to eat prasad, or would you like to, eat anything for just sense gratification? So, what Prabhupada's saying here is that the perfection of the senses is when you engage in the service of the Lord. And that's why we can also see how Kardama Muni, who is an exalted devotee, or he describes the Lord as the reservoir of all goodness and all pleasure. So reservoir, is this huge, it is infinite goodness and infinite pleasure, and no other material, beauties or pleasure can really give you that, that sense of satisfaction, and there's really no real pleasure. So the other aspect that we also picked up is one's body and mind and activities are situated in the service of the Lord. And that's when, and in Karthik, that's what we are really trying to do, because, we are trying our best. We are not, at an exalted level as of now, but we are all making some sincere endeavors. So it's really that endeavor that, Krishna really sees. And we'll also see in the next passage how he fulfills all our desires. And when you have a desire that you want to come closer to him, then he will make your desire come true if it is sincere enough. So, is there anything else that struck you in this purport? Any other reflections on this? There is also the other aspect that I, picked up, that he's not Prabhupada says is that Kardama Muni is not a fictitious yogi. And I was a little, I was a bit curious about, Prabhupada's choice of the word fictitious, and but it also reminded me of how yoga and the yogis today, have lost the complete essence of, what truly, true yoga is, because yoga is really about connection with the divine. But if you look at really the way yoga is perceived in the world today, yes, of course, there are, like schools of yoga which focuses on bhakti yoga, but then there are lots of, like schools of yoga which focuses more on your breath, your postures, and all that is fine. But then they all have to direct you towards serving the Lord. And so there are many of these yogic gurus, many of these, mystic, people who can perform some miracles, and they attract a lot of followers. And um, And the question is, do you allow yourself to, be guided by those fictitious yogis, or do you get attracted only by the Lord? And when you get attracted only by the Lord, then then you can be very sure that you're not following any fictitious path. So, but there are so many people out there who profess themselves to be yogis, and but they're not necessarily following a path that allows that to takes them closer to Krishna. And any path that doesn't take you to the eternal form of the Lord is fictitious. If there are no more reflections, let's move on to the next text 14. And Kirtida Dalali Mataji, would you like to help us read this?
Yes, Prabhuji, I will read them.
Okay, Girish Prabhu, yeah.
As stated in Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, there are two kinds of devotees: those who desire material pleasures and those who desire nothing but service to the Lord. Material pleasure can be attained even by hogs and dogs, whose conditions of life is hellish. The hogs also eat, sleep, and enjoy sex life to the full extent, and it is also very satisfied with such hellish enjoyment of material existence. Modern yogis advise that because one has senses, one must enjoy to the fullest extent, like cats and dogs, yet one can go on and practice yoga. This is a condemned here by Kardama Muni. He said that such material pleasures are available for cats and dogs in hellish condition. The Lord is so kind that if so called yogis are satisfied by hellish pleasures, He can give them facility to attain all the material pleasure they desire. But they cannot attain the perfectional stage attained by Kardama Muni. Hellish and demonic persons do not actually know what is the ultimate attainment in perfection, and therefore they think that sense gratification is the highest goal of life. They advise that one can satisfy the senses and at the same time, by reciting some mantra and by some practice, can cheaply aspire for perfection. Such persons are described here as Hata Medha Saha, which means those whose brains are spoiled. They aspire for material enjoyment by perfection of yoga or meditation. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated by the Lord that the intelligence of those who worship the demigod has been spoiled. Similarly, here too it is stated by Karma Muni that one who aspires after material enjoyment by practice of yoga has spoiled his brain's substance and is fool number one. Actually, the intelligent practitioner of yoga should aspire for nothing else but to cross over the ocean of nescience by worshipping the personality of Godhead and to see the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord is so kind, however, that even today persons whose brain substance is spoiled are given the benediction to become cats, dogs, or hogs and enjoy material happiness from sex life and sense gratification. The Lord confirmed this benediction in Bhagavad Gita. Whatever a person aspires to receive from me, I offer him as he desires. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So this passage really, is I mean, this purport by Prabhupada is really a warning for us, and as you can see, where we end off this particular purport is that whatever a person aspires to receive from me, I offer him as he desires. So we have to be very careful about what we desire, and because the Lord is so kind that He does fulfill them. However, we need to ask ourselves whether the desires that we have is going to be ultimately beneficial for us, or whether it's going to be really harmful for us in the long run. And this particular passage is a lot about describing that in great detail. So if you can just very quickly um, move to the start. So in this, what Kadma Muni is, he's continuing his prayers to the Lord, whom he's just seeing in front of him. So he says that your lotus feet are the true vessel to take one across the ocean of mundane nescience, ignorance. So we're all caught up in this, delusion of the three modes of material existence, and we believe that the only happiness is material happiness. Only persons deprived of their intelligence by the spell of the deluding energy will worship those feet with a view to attain the trivial and the momentary pleasures of the senses. So again, some of the things that we just described. I mean, suppose you want to taste, like a very nice gulab jamun as an example, or whether you want to enjoy, aromatic, like perfumes, because today, the perfume industry is, millions, and that's because everybody's wanting to, smell good. Or you are looking at even nature itself, and you feel that, there is a lot of beauty in, the mountains and in the sunset, etc. Yes, I mean, they are beautiful, and they are beautiful because they are God's creation. But if we like remove the God or the divinity from, from nature, then then you're just not intelligent enough. And what we have to be very careful about is the Lord is very kind, that if you really want to do something which is not healthy for you, then it's much better for you to try to change your, mindset, change your thinking. Otherwise, you could, as as here Kadamamuni says, which even persons rotting in hell can attain. So attaining momentary pleasure of the senses is not really something that is good for an intelligent person, because Prabhupada calls someone like that who just goes on pleasure of the senses to be fool number one. So he describes, Prabhupada describes two kinds of devotees in chapter 7. So those who are the materialists, who derive material pleasures, and those who desire nothing but in the service of the Lord. So, and usually, there are uh, so you could argue that, why would there be devotees who desire material pleasures and who also desire, so who desire, sorry, um there are devotees who can also desire material pleasures. And you may have a question, as devotees, do we really desire material pleasures? And he gives an example of this here. So what he says here is, I think it's probably here. So let's um so there are people who believe that you can satisfy your senses, and at the same time by reciting some mantra and some practice can cheaply aspire for perfection. So it's almost like saying, I'm going to be following my, my pursuit of sense gratification, and what I'm going to try to do is to so I will not follow the four regulative principles as an example, but then I'm going to spend enough time, going to the temples, like recite some mantra, and then through that I'm going to lead a perfect life. So so Prabhupada calls, such people, such persons as Hatha Medasa, which means that those whose brains are spoiled. And that's spoiled come, so so you have the intelligence, and if your intelligence is deluded by, by these propensities, then your mind is going to get agitated. And when your mind gets agitated, then that also translates into, behaviors of the senses. So it's almost like, when you see that, the chariot as as a metaphor, where the five horses are the senses. And when your intelligence is muddled, then it's going to be very difficult. Then you're going to lose reins of your senses, and they're going to probably go in all directions. And that's where, even in chapter 3 or 4, Krishna also says that lust is the greatest enemy. And lust is the greatest enemy because it really makes us hanker for things. And if we don't get it, then, we are very agitated, we are very frustrated, we're angry. And if we get it, then we could become arrogant as well. So in both ways, um, getting what you want and not getting what you want, because it's material objects, will never give you the full eternal happiness that you seek. And Prabhupada says here that their brains are muddled, and this is a good caution for us to try not to go this path. And what also Prabhupada says here is that the intelligent practitioner of yoga should aspire for nothing else but to cross over the ocean of nescience by worshipping the personality of Godhead, and to see the lotus feet of the Lord. So they should try not to get too much influenced by the pleasures that they see, and they should constantly be seeking for getting the knowledge, getting the realization, to move over the ocean of nescience. Because even if we live in this material world, even if things look very nice and jazzy and glamorous and beautiful, they are all very, very deluded. As Prabhupada says, in this world is like a toilet. You must do your business and then you have to get out of there. So do your prescribed duties, do whatever it takes for you to, be there, because we are here, so we don't have a choice but do what we need to do. So do your duties, do your prescribed duties, and then both Sanatan Dharma and Swadharma, and then make it a point to get out of there. Because if you plan to stay here, then you'll constantly keep coming back again and again in the cycle of birth and death. And when you do that, you could come not just as human beings, but you could also come as cats and dogs and hogs, and they're just going to make you trapped in this particular cycle of birth and death. Moving on to text 15. So would somebody like to read the purport of text 15? Because this actually moves to, so the first two passages, verses were more around who a pure devotee is, and a warning to us about, not getting too deluded by material senses, and also practice bhakti yoga, because that is really the path to perfection. In this, there is a slightly different message. So let's read this particular purport. And is there anybody who'd like to read this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I read?
Yes, Madhvi Mataji.
In spite of his condemning persons who approach the Lord for material advantages, Kardama Muni expressed his material inability and desires before the Lord by saying, "Although I know nothing material should be asked from you, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition." The phrase "like disposition" is very significant. Formerly, boys and girls of similar dispositions were married. The similar nature of the boy and girl were united in order to make them happy. Not more than 25 years ago, and perhaps it is still current, parents in India used to consult the horoscope of the boy and girl to see whether there would be factual union in their psychological conditions. The considerations are very important. Nowadays, marriages take place without such consultation, and therefore soon after the marriage, there is a divorce and separation. Formerly, husband and wife used to live together peacefully throughout all their lives, but nowadays it's very difficult task. Kardama Muni wanted to have a wife of like disposition because a wife is necessary to assist in spiritual and material advancement. It is said that a wife yields the fulfillment of all desire in religion, economic development, and sense gratification. If one has a nice wife, he is to be considered a most fortunate man. In astrology, a man is considered fortunate who has great wealth, very good sons, or a very good wife. Of these three, one who has a very good wife is considered the most fortunate. Before marrying, one should select a wife of like disposition and not be enamored by so-called beauty or other attractive features for sense gratification. In the Bhagavatam 12th canto, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, marriage will be based on the consideration of sex life. As soon as there is deficiency in sex life, the question of divorce will arise. Kardama Muni could have asked his benediction from Uma, for it is recommended in the scriptures that if anybody wants a good wife, he should worship Uma. But he preferred to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead because it is recommended in Bhagavad Gita that everyone, whether he is full of desire, has no desire, or desires desires liberation should worship the Supreme Lord. Of these three classes of men, one tries to be happy by fulfillment of material desires, another wants to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme, and another, the perfect man, is a devotee. He does not want anything in return from the personality of Godhead. He only wants to render transcendental loving service. In any case, everyone should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he will fulfill everyone's desire. The advantage of worshipping the Supreme Person, is that even if one has desires for material enjoyment, if he worships Krishna, he will gradually become a pure devotee and have no material hankering. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Madhvi Mataji. This brings us to a very contemporary topic around like arranged marriage versus love marriage, and I'm sure that some of us who have been in countries, we probably have gone through this ourselves. I mean, personally, or we may have like children who might be going through something like this. So in this one, it's just good to remind ourselves, like Kadama Muni, he has been instructed to to create a progeny, and he would like to ask the Lord for for a partner who is whom he mentions is of a like position, a girl of like position, and that's where Prabhupada builds upon that in the purport. So he says, so Prabhupada says here that like disposition is very, very, very important. And he draws, the references on how marriages happen today. So, uh, not more than 25 years ago, and this, of course, we need to see, like that was when Prabhupada, was on this planet. But I think, times have changed, and we don't know whether it's for the good or the worse. But that was a point of time, where arranged marriages, which looked at astrology, the horoscope, the Janam Patri, as we would know. We went, we would go through that. I personally, like do come from that, like marriage, because because the grandmothers of both, like my wife and I, they knew each other, and so they looked at, the horoscopes, and then and then we had like the small like boy meets girl kind of kind of a ceremony, which was quite many years ago. I'm just like reflecting about like 25 years ago. And then and then we had kind of like a courtship period to just to get to know each other, and then probably took about like I think 6 months. In 6 months, we were married, and that's one way of like getting married. But then there are many other ways of getting married. You meet someone, and then you like think of them as your partner, and then you tie the knot. I was hearing the statistics in UK, which is not which is a bit sobering. It said that 42% of marriages in UK end in a divorce, and that just allows you to reflect on what could be some of the reasons why like these marriages, because when you marry, you don't normally marry with an intention that you want to separate at any point of time, but you really like do want to spend your lifetime with with a partner. But what really happens in between? I mean, why do these differences occur, and why do these differences become so important that we that the thought of living together doesn't doesn't really come about, and everyone takes that the final step, which is to say that okay, let's really separate, and let's divorce. And Kadma Muni wanted to be very key. I mean, so he wanted a partner, he wanted a wife of, and where Prabhupada says that this like disposition means that it's a wife, it's a girl who will help Kardama Muni in assisting in spiritual and material advancement. So That's quite important. And what Prabhupada also says here is that, in astrology, a man is considered fortunate if he's got a great wealth, very good sons, or a very good wife. But if you really have a very good wife, then you are the most fortunate. Now, that a very good wife doesn't necessarily mean, the most beautiful wife or most attractive wife, but it's really about like disposition. And what it really means is that will they support you in your spiritual journey towards bhakti yoga? So, and today we also see, like not just in the manner, but also, but elsewhere. And we have some examples in, like in, here as well about devotee couples who lead very, very, very spiritual lives. And it's very, and they also like, bring up their children in a way that's very Krishna conscious, and that's really what like ISKCON also has been like telling us. So by association, by devotees, you can it's just not about yourself, but your entire family could become Krishna conscious. And when you do that, we would really not have these issues about separations, etc., because we really understand each other. And so there is a lot that we do today in Krishna conscious activities, which really could be a mitigating factor for any possible quarrels that could happen between like a husband and a wife at some point. And that's also based on the fact that both the husband and the wife, they have a common they have a like disposition, and that disposition is that how can we really come closer to Krishna. So, and when you're united in that particular in that particular spiritual goal, you would really stay together. So, rather than think of things like question of divorce. And Prabhupada also speaks about three classes of men. And he also says which class of men is a perfect man. So there are some who try to be happy by fulfilling the material desires. They seek fame, wealth, power, beauty, strength, or whatever it is. And then there are others who want to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme, and that's an impersonalist like approach. So there is no reciprocity of devotional service, because you become one with the Brahman. And the perfect man is one who is a devotee. And and what's important is that he does not want anything in return at all. So, and that's where Kadama Muni, says that I'm asking you for something material, although he is an exalted devotee himself, and he recognizes that what he's asking is not necessarily what a perfect devotee would ask. However, he does need to fulfill his follow his instructions, and that's why he asks this blessing from Krishna. And then finally, where we wrap up this is, if we worship Krishna, we'll gradually become a pure devotee and have no material hankering. So that's how this particular these verses end. So just very quickly to sum up. So um, Kardama Muni is seeing the Lord, and he's really ecstatic in his like in his approach, and then he bows down and he offers his obeisances. And then he speaks about the importance of detachment, and how we can be how he gets a perfection of sight by just seeing the Lord. And then he also cautions about people who are materially inclined. And then he we hear how he requests the Lord to give him a girl of like position disposition, so that he can be a man of good fortune, and he can make both spiritual and material advancement. And as we look at these three verses, we can also think about how our own spiritual journeys are. And if we can also ask ourselves, like, do we have a partner with whom we follow Krishna conscious activities together? Or do we have or is our partner not yet completely ready? So, but I'm sure that, we would be at various stages, and it'll be good to really reflect on where we are today and what is it that we can do, not just individually but collectively as husband and wife, and then as a family, and how we can all, imbibe, the values that can, help us embrace Bhakti Yoga, and that can also help us to, come closer to the Lord in this auspicious month. And with that, I would like to invite reflections and any thoughts that may have come to your mind. I know as you read these passages, anything that I mentioned, any personal stories that I might like to share, or any questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Very nice class, Prabhuji. I really enjoyed the way you explained everything so nicely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanava Pranams, Prabhupada. Thank you for a wonderful class. I have a controversial question that I'm not sure I can get my head around, and maybe you can help me understand.
Sure.
So, with the background you've described, and we all know that the theory is that if we all have the same goals and aspiration of serving Krishna, then the supposed platform of marriage should be a much more successful one. Yet we find in ISKCON, the divorce rates are significantly higher than the Karmi world. I think you quoted in the UK it's 45%, yet I think in ISKCON it's in excess of 65, 68%. It's an unbelievable, shocking number, and I can't get my head around it, to be honest.
I didn't know that, Prabhuji.
It's substantially higher than the Karmi world, yes.
It's higher.
It's
That's
substantially higher. So, any ideas as to what's going on wrong here?
It's quite interesting you mentioned that, Prabhuji. So there could be many reasons, and I think it might we might need to do a bit more delving into the reasons. It always begins with like our individual journeys, and then our individual journeys can take us in a path which can bring us close to a partner. But at some point, because we do live in this material world, we have seen that our desire to come closer to Krishna is not always very strong. Because there are some of us who fall because we may suddenly become attracted by some other things, and that could be, as an example, suppose one has one has a child, and then then your loving propensity goes to more towards the children, and then there could be definitely some differences of opinion which may come around how you want to raise your child. And much as we like to think of ourselves as being connected with this shared goal towards Krishna, we do come with a lot of our own desires, a lot of our own fears, anxieties, and sometimes that may overpower the connected goal that we want to have, which is to come closer to Krishna. So it's the world of Maya that we live in, Prabhuji, at the end of the day. So some of us are a bit more influenced than some of the others, and while it's quite sad to see the statistics, because I didn't really know, it could be because that like disposition that Prabhupada and Kadama Muni mentions, uh, it may seem that way at the start when you come together, but it may not end up being that way when you have stayed with that person for some time. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. My humble attempt at this is from when I think I've seen some letters from Prabhupada in early days when some of his disciples were having problems with marriage, is that although the philosophical understanding may be there, the cultural depth isn't existing yet in the society in order to bond and apply the philosophy and practice in culture. I mean, that was a sort of thematic responses of Prabhupada on some of his letters. I've picked up
Yeah.
that the philosophy might be there, but the culture is missing sometimes.
Yeah, and you need to just add on to that. So you could also have examples whereby because sometimes priorities do change with some life events that could happen, and that could be, birth of a child, or it could be, like loss of a dear one. And so some of those may have an influence, but also if, for example, one of the partners is excessively involved in performing devotional service to the extent that they do not fulfill all their prescribed duties, which is the swadharma, then that can also come into the way. So it's always about, trying to find the right balance in terms of, what works. And that balance could be very different for different couples. And where you see that there is a bit of an imbalance where, for example, suppose, the husband, wants to spend like many hours doing devotional service, and they participate in, they probably spend the weekends only there. And then there could be this partner who may say, I want even some time, I want my husband to spend some time with me as well. So uh, that's where you can probably see some of this come in. So devotional service and activities is really good, but then, we also have to do it in a manner that's respectful to the family, because the last thing you want to do is to create conflict within the family itself because of the spiritual practices. And I'm sure that nobody wants to do that. So it's really about striking the right balance, and wherever that imbalance becomes more prominent, that's where those here cases of separation and divorce happens. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, it's a conundrum really, which it's a difficult one, and I wish it wasn't the statistic, because it is a painful statistic to we've seen many kids around us, and within 5 or 6 or 7 years they're kind of divorced, and what they start off as beautiful devotees, and ends up in quite a not a nice situation at the end of it. And I just maybe put that down to lack of spiritual maturity. And I think you need more than just a peripheral practice. You need depth of understanding, and you need the maturity and the cultural depth in order to actually apply. I think it's no good being a devotee just whilst you're in the temple or in the mandir room. You have to actually be a devotee 24 hours a day along with the family, and bring the family along as well.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think you did speak about
sorry
this,
for acting.
yeah. No. I mean, it's important. I think it's important to have those honest discussions, because that's what will help us to even reflect on what can we do to really support it. And um, I think you did I think you hit the nail on the head when you spoke about the lack of cultural maturity. So, and when the practices are become peripheral, and when it's not backed by a sincere desire, and to really to really follow the path of devotional service, where when it becomes involuntary, when it becomes forced, and that's when you start think you're not getting the higher taste in anything that you do. And one example could be chanting, because you speak to devotees, like, do everybody get the benefits of chanting? Yes, we do try to say God as such against the offenses of chanting, but then how many of us can truly put our hand on our heart and say that every day, my chanting is of the highest quality? And when we find ourselves losing that higher taste in some of the devotional service that we do, then it can be the same service that we were part of before. It may not give us the same joy, and but that's the material world that we live in. That's the world, and that's why we have to guard ourselves against it. And that's where I think the entire aspect of devotional, the devotee support becomes important. And in fact, I've also heard that. Um, I don't know. I don't know whether this could also sound a bit controversial, where you say that we love all our energies. Like in ISKCON temples is more about attracting devotees. But once the devotees really become devotees, when they come to the mandir regularly or any of the temples, then do we really spend enough time to nurture them? And that's where I believe there's been a lot of focus on devotee care. I know Jayanita Prabhu had run a few programs when he was trying to talk about, yes, I mean, we also need to do something for the devotees who are with us. So and maybe some of the answers could lie there, helping some of these couples with some counseling issues, which has got a spiritual underpinning. So yeah, those are probably some of these solutions. But but I think yeah, if the problem is there, then I think we should just pray. And if we have anyone who's probably experiencing that, then we try to provide whatever support we can in our little way.
I think training of the different ashrams doesn't exist really properly, and at least here, I know it does exist in Chopati, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of congregations that have a very sophisticated congregational development, but here I think it is lacking, at least
It's yeah.
where I think kids are going into Grihastha ashram, but without understanding what Grihastha ashram means, both spiritually and materially. I mean, Prabhupada, and it's repeated in Shastra that one mustn't become a guru if you can't deliver your disciple. One mustn't become a husband if you cannot deliver your wife. One mustn't become a father unless you can deliver your child. And those are really, heavy cornerstones of Vedic understanding. And yet, I think people enter into these ashrams without full understanding, and therefore they're no better off than what the material world does, except they've got a wrapper in their personal practice of some bhakti, but haven't realized how that should be focused together to develop each other and enrich each other and their family towards Krishna. And if that's lacking, then they're doing is they're doing personal practice and not actually focusing on what the purpose of Grihastha ashram is, to actually develop a family in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, they become Griya Medis again. Yeah. Anyway, sorry for distracting you away from Bhagavatam.
No, it's not distracting at all. I think
you read some pertinent purports today, and it just reminded me of sizable seismic problem there seems to exist in ISKCON, and I wish there was a solution for it. So.
Yeah. I mean, we may not be able to find a solution, but I think it's important for us to be aware, and then also to also think about what Kardama Muni said, because he himself said, I want to have a girl of like disposition. But that like disposition in today's world could mean such different things, and it may not really remain the same. So that's why they say we can't choose our parents, but I think we have to be quite careful. We can choose our partners. So I think we just have to exercise as much of consideration as possible. Some may think astrology, some may think whatever. So, but I think it's important that you have a like disposition, and both of you support each other in both your material and your spiritual advancement. But it's easier said than done. But thanks for raising that question. And did anyone have any thoughts on Prabhuji's question before we conclude? Because it's a topic that doesn't not normally get discussed. And but did anyone have any comments on that? Any views?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Patimataji.
Thank you for that wonderful class, as always. Prabhuji, isn't the issue here that spirituality versus materialism, and materialism is winning? If people are are following path of spirituality and come into a relationship together on that same goal and destination, at some point one must be straying from that path of spirituality, and the pull of Maya materialism is so strong that one of them, or each of one is pulled by that. So it may be that is the main reason. The simple answer to all of this is that materialism is winning, and in this age of Kali, or coral, maybe that's even more prone to happen.
Yeah, absolutely, Mataji. I think in a nutshell, that's probably what it is, because because even the great sages have also been influenced by Maya, and we have had examples of that. So Brahmaji himself, and we have seen in the creation how he himself was bewildered by his own creation. So we live in that world, and if some of the exalted devotees themselves have fallen because of the because of the Maya, then
Yes.
who are we? Who are
Yes.
we? So
We are so
that's
hugely conditioned. You're right.
yeah, and that's why and that also like should remind us that should remind us to be a lot more steadfast in our faith, and how we do that will be quite different. But I think having these joining like classes like these and having these honest discussions can be a way, and I think we also should be definitely having some devotee support. I mean, support. And as Prabhuji mentioned, there are some temples which has got a more sophisticated way of doing that, but it's really about being there. So the moment you know that there is a devotee family that's going through some difficulty, I'm sure something could be done to avoid the ultimate decision for them to really separate. Probably they're not having the right guidance being given to them, so that's where we probably have a role to play. So if we in the devotee family, if we see somewhere where and there could be some families that could be going through some tough times, and I personally know of one very very dear friend or couple, and who finally did decide not to separate, which is great. But then we do know the agony that they went through, the pain that they went through, and so it could all mean very different things, but as long as we have the right care and support, and as long as we as devotees see that it's a responsibility for us to also take care of the larger devotee community, I think that's probably what Krishna will want as well, and Prabhupada will want. So it's not about just making your individual progress forward, but it's really about taking a family along with you.
With you, yes, on the journey, yes.
On the journey.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So with that, I know it's been quite late, but I think thank you so much. It was a very interesting question, Prabhuji. So I'm also going to do further reflection on that because I was not aware of that statistics. So Shri Kushri Mataji, can I invite you to end the class?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for
Hare
wonderful class.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.